1. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the main watch, exploring stiffer finds for litter bugs. Exploring stiffer finds for litter bugs. And in the second watch, analyzing the 2024 eclipse of the sun. For our social media question, we ask, what connection do you think there is between natural occurrences such as the eclipse and what the Bible says? Share your responses on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes too. 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on the program, but first, as I quote.
All right, so today's I quote says, when you start breaking the law to enforce it, you cross the street to their side. And this one is from Frank Regan, the Blue Bloods.
Okay, so when you start breaking the law to enforce it, is that an act of desperation, Jacob?
You know, if we're going to call Mr. Frank Regan,
the brain watch will be back.
That's right.
After this break.
Pilate's wife, Simon the Cyrenian, the Roman centurion and his fellow soldiers, the owners of the donkey Jesus rode on into Jerusalem, the children and the religious leaders. No doubt you've heard about them, but did their participation in the Easter story impact you? What lessons can we learn from these so-called minor characters in the Easter story? Tuesday, April 9, on The Rock, join guests Pastor Christopher Kennedy and Reverend Christopher Broadbent as they discuss the topic, minor characters in the Easter story. That's The Rock, Tuesday, April 9 at 10 a.m. right here on the family station, Love 101.
Get ready for another inspiring show that's Testimony Tuesday inside Alive, 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. April 9, packed with inspirational stories and island-flavored music. 1:45, we bring you the brain testing Menticize Listener Speak Edition. Stick around for Prayer Blast at 2 o'clock as we bring in the prayer bells of heaven. 2:15 is the evidence. We hear the powerful testimony of Mr. Paul Blake. Can't afford to miss that. Then at 3 p.m., we go behind the pulpit for another live transforming story. All this and more will come alive 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. April 9 with yours truly, Sarah and the Chirpy One on the family station, Love 101.
Have to be a man, got to be a man. I am a man.
It is a new month, and on the next episode of the Mailbox, we will focus on the topic Men and Music, Part 1. Music is a way of glorifying and worshiping God, telling His great deeds, offering outlets for both lament and praise, providing unity to God's people. It is a form of communication that expresses thoughts and emotion that words alone cannot. What are some of the elements that make music moral, right, and godly, fit for praise and worship? You are invited to connect with us as we talk with Mr. Maxwell Slowly, Minister of Music and Pastor at Assemblies of the Firstborn Church International, Santa Hill, on Wednesday, April 10 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station, Love 101, the Mailbox, Monday.
On the next Campus Connection, we will focus on tertiary recruitment. Information on career planning and access to higher educational pursuits are essential for students. The Ministry of Education and Youth, in collaboration with public higher education institutions, will host a tertiary recruitment drive. Do you know how important it is for students to access tertiary level education? You are invited to join the discussion with Ms. Shika Walsh, Communication and Marketing Manager at the V2BI, Mrs. Renee Brown, the Acting Senior Education Officer at the Ministry of Education and Youth, Mr. Delano Jarrett, Manager of Client Relations and Marketing at the Council of Community Colleges of Jamaica, and our honorary guest, Miss Nicole Ann Harvey of the UWI Mona. This all happens on Tuesday, April 9 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Our litter issue says a lot about who we are. And litter builds up as we, every time someone throws something out of their vehicle or they're walking on the road and they drop something. What is the response of the authorities and what more can be done? What is our responsibility? We have as our guest at this time, Executive Director of the National Solid Waste Management Authority, Mr. Audley Gordon. Mr. Gordon, good morning. Audley Gordon. We are hearing.
Hello?
Yes, we are hearing you now. Good morning,
Hello?
Mr. Gordon.
Good morning.
How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, somebody put me on hold. I'm not hearing anything.
Mr. Gordon, I think we're hearing you, Mr. Gordon. Mr. Branch,
Hello?
are you also online with us?
Are you hearing me? Hello? I'm hearing you.
We
Yes,
also
I'm hearing you.
have
Hello?
online this morning as well, joining us, social commentator Kevin O'Brien Chang. Mr. O'Brien Chang, good day.
Good morning,
Hello?
everybody.
Good morning, Mr. O'Brien Chang. Mr. Gordon? Mr. O'Brien Chang, let's start with you because we are having a bit of a difficulty hearing Mr. Gordon. Mr. O'Brien Chang, your comments in relation to the situation with garbage on the roads, garbage everywhere, garbage. What can we do to fix this problem?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious. You need to put a carrot and a stick. You need to educate the young people from they're young, and you need to find the older folks who, who are nasty. That's the bottom line word for it. You need to young people must be taught about why you should take up after yourself. You should be clean for decency and for health. But also the folks that just drive along and throw things out or drop everything anywhere, they should be fined. So both the carrot and the stick should be done. Other countries do these things and they are clean or cleaner than Jamaica. We're not the dirtiest, but we're not the cleanest. And I think it's pretty obvious that the authorities, they should know that this is pretty obvious what to do.
Understood, Mr. Well, we have an authority or a representative of an authority on the line at this time. Audley Gordon, Executive Director of the National Solid Waste Management Authority. Mr. Gordon, good morning. I think we are hearing you now. Still not hearing Mr. Gordon. Well,
other aspect is you need to make it easier to be clean by having garbage bins or whatever, near at convenient places. Often, they're far and few between. So people are generally, human nature is that if it's hard to do, I'm not going to do it. If it's easy to do, I will do it.
Yes,
so I think those three things would be the logical things to do.
Even though this is Love 101 FM, a religious media station, I mean, there was Carnival this past weekend. And in terms of Carnival, not a religious event in terms of the Christian faith anyway, but there has been a lot of criticism in relation to the disposal of garbage, whether it was at a Carnival event per se or just generally even outside of Carnival events, but it was a massive event, a massive undertaking. and there has been a lot of discussion as to how garbage should have been disposed of and who should have been treating with the disposal of the garbage. Any comments on there, Mr. O'Brien?
Well, it should be double pronged. From what I understand, the carnival bands, they're part of the signing on contract, was cleaning up afterwards, right? Somebody said when they have these runs, surgical runs and stuff, they clean up right after. These bands should have been fined for not cleaning up, but also the authorities are slack. How can you wake up such Monday morning as the mayor or whatever and complain about the garbage? You should have people going around from an evening, seeing what's going on and calling people out if needs be. As I said, you can walk on through Gomina, find those carnival bands because they're supposed to clean up. But if they didn't do it, you as the authorities go clean up. You don't wait till Monday morning and tell me, oh, I didn't know about this. You have your people go drive around and look and see if the garbage is you call up with the solid waste people. There should have been arrangements made in advance. We know it's a huge thing with a lot of people, and it's very predictable that stuff is going to be dumped and all that. Especially these revelers, they're drunk, so they don't care about disposing of things properly. But it's total slackness all around.
Understood. Let's see if we can have Mr. Orley Gordon on now because he's the executive director of the NSWMA. Mr. Gordon, are you on now? Orley Gordon, executive director of the NSWMA, National Solid Waste Management Authority. Mr. Orley Gordon really wanted to have his comments, because in his capacity, he would be a very good person to weigh in on this conversation this morning in terms of the topic, of course, for those of us who are just joining, our topic is exploring stiffer fines for litter bugs. Well, let's throw that to you to some extent, to the extent that you wish to comment, Mr. Brian Chang. Should we have hefty fines for littering? Is that one way to resolve the problem?
Well, of course, it's part of the solution. As I say, look on the US. We are, it's a place most Jamaicans visit abroad because of the convenience, right? Yeah. They have hefty fines there. And the sad thing about Jamaicans is that they go abroad to these more, I don't want to say more advanced, but more disciplined countries where laws are enforced and they follow the laws.
Yes.
And they come, and Jamaica, the same Jamaicans will come back to Jamaica and just throw anything anywhere because they figure, oh, nobody's going to bother me or fine me or anything. I can just do what I want. Yeah. So as I come back to the point, other countries do it. Yeah. Why can't Jamaica? It has to just be a lack of enforcement by the authorities, but also, as I say, a lack of education of the children when they're young. Civics, I think most people agree that civics should be brought back. Teach young people how to live as decent citizens, right? And there are many aspects of it, but one of them is, taking pride in yourself, taking pride in your surroundings, and from health-wise, wanting, garbage taken up or help keep the place clean because dirty places get sick more easily. It's just common sense. As I said, none of this, what I'm saying, I believe, is anything but common sense. And we all know it. But what happens? People pass the buck, can on the road, as they say. The ones who are supposed to educate are not educating. The ones who are supposed to be cleaning up are not cleaning up. The ones who are supposed to be enforcing fines are not fining them. So it's a dereliction of duty all around. Why should Jamaica have to be so dirty? There's no excuse whatsoever.
Mr. Brian Chang, I do see where we are now upon a break. And let us see if you can have Mr. Gordon join us after the break. But listeners, please go absolutely nowhere. This is a very important topic. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
AccuLab Diagnostics Limited, located at ATL Plaza in Montego Bay, for all your blood testing needs. Open every day, including Sundays, 6132714.
The time by AccuLab Diagnostics Limited is
7:15. It's now time for the Morning Watch in just a few.
Pilot Lot's wife, Simon the Cyrenian, the Roman centurion and his fellow soldiers, the owners of the donkey Jesus rode on into Jerusalem, the children and the religious leaders. No doubt you've heard about them, but did their participation in the Easter story impact you? What lessons can we learn from these so-called minor characters in the Easter story? Tuesday, April 9, on The Rock, join guests Pastor Christopher Kennedy and Reverend Christopher Broadberg as they discuss the topic, minor characters in the Easter story. That's The Rock, Tuesday, April 9 at 10 a.m. right here on the family station, Love 101.
Get ready for another inspiring show. Let's Testimony Tuesday inside a live 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. April 9, packed with inspirational stories and island-flavored music. 1:45, we bring you the brain testing Menticize Listener Speak Edition. Stick around the prayer blast at 2 o'clock as we bring in the prayer bells of heaven. 2:15 is the evidence. We hear the powerful testimony of Mr. Paul Blake. You can't afford to miss that. Then at 3 p.m., we go behind the pulpit for another live transforming story. All this and more will come alive 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. April 9 with yours truly, Sarah and the Chirpy One on the family station, Love 101.
After you double up the savings, double up the things that you're in a waiting. You think the ones the dreams have been chasing. Double up the savings, double up.
Save so you can put in the jam that double of your savings promotion. You could be one of 5 lucky quarterly winners to walk away with double the money you put in your savings account. Conditions apply.
Double up the savings.
Check our website and social media for details. Jam Bank will help you find a way. Authorized under Section 58 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
Think ahead, make a plan. You got the freedom of choice.
Like long-acting reversible contraceptives.
I made my choice 6 years ago. I have an IUCD, also called copper T, and it will go and protect me from pregnancy for another 4 years at least. My choice was an implant. It lasts for 5 years. And when I'm ready for a baby, I just make doctor take it out. Contact the National Family Planning Board at 9681632 to find out more about the Lord.
Think ahead, make a plan. You got the freedom of choice.
Truth is, HIV affects everyone. Truth is, avoiding care leads to a weaker immune system. That means you could get really sick. The truth is, the hardest pill to swallow isn't the medication. It's the problems that follow when you don't take them. Let's get through this together. Remain in care. You can live life to the fullest with HIV. And that's the truth. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
I'm using my Sagicor Bank credit card to do all my Easter shopping.
Okay.
All my Easter shopping.
Why are you talking in doubles?
Because this Easter you could win double your spend. Use your Sagicor Bank credit card for all your Easter spending from March 20 to April 12. And you could be one of 3 lucky card holders to win double your spend in cashback.
Double my spend? I'm using Sagicor Bank credit card for all my spending this Easter for the best rewards ever.
Conditions apply. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. In this first watch of the Morning Watch, we're looking at the topic, exploring stiffer fines for litterbugs. And our guests are Mr. Kevin O'Brien Chang, social commentator, and we also hope to have online at this time Executive Director of the National Solid Waste Management Authority, Mr. Orley Gordon. Let's try again to see if you can have Mr. Gordon on at this time. Mr. Gordon, good morning, sir.
Morning to you and your listeners.
Great having you on. We were trying to have you on earlier on, but unfortunately there was a challenge with the connection. We do apologize to you, sir, for that problem. It is now resolved. So we are now hearing you, sir, and we would like you to weigh in. Who is a litterbug? We think that's obvious who a litterbug is in terms of cleaning up after the recent carnival event. Again, we know this is a religious media station, but notwithstanding, we're discussing how to dispose of garbage. And that was a massive event. Any comments on that, Mr. Gordon, as well as the matter of fines, stiffer fines and penalties for littering or for disposing of garbage in the wrong way? Mr. Gordon. I know it's a loaded question. But
Right. I attempt to answer. A litter bug can be anyone. Even simply eating an ice mint and tossing the wrap on the ground.
Yes.
As simple as that. It's not, you don't have to throw a big item like a plastic bottle or something to a car window to be a litter bug.
Yes.
As simple as a regular paper. We should not be dropping things like that. We should not be tossing things through the windows of cars. We should not be dumping on people's open lot to see, however isolated it is.
Or you throw the cane trash on the ground.
The cane trash on the ground. Yeah. We should always take full responsibility for the solid waste that we generate. And in that I mean that we should endeavor to ensure that it is disposed of in an environmentally sound manner that don't create unsightly mess around the place. Unfortunately,
the recent carnival event, Mr. Gordon, I know that I might appear to be trying to get you along a little bit faster, but only because of time, and we lost some time with you earlier on.
Right.
The recent carnival event, sir.
So the carnival event, it's quite unfortunate that such a major success story as the carnival, where thousands of people from overseas and locals come together to have fun, that it ended with a negative note. But you know what? With a work in progress, I'm sure the organizer is a largely private sector event. I'm sure we have already stated and communicated to them what we think could be a solution. And I believe that we should, as a people, we should sit down when we have these major events. And Kevin O'Brien Chang, I heard snippet of his presentation earlier, that we must anticipate that these events will generate, huge amounts of garbage. And so the proactive measures should be put in place. We did ask for that. People commit to putting measures in place, but obviously what they put in place was woefully inadequate. I'm not so sure what would account for that. Maybe they underestimated the success that they would have in terms of turnout. But going forward, I believe that we should not approve any carnival or any such event without clear deposits, based on estimates. At least a 50% deposit for the cleanup is made with the authority. We believe that because every time that things like these happen, whether it be a carnival event or anything that is held and create litter, we are the ones as government who would have to come now to do the cleanup, as is the case yesterday, as the case currently. Sorry.
Only because we are a religious media station. Well, it might have been successful financially. It does say, for example, in the Daily Observer, estimated $5 billion in earnings over Carnival Week. Many Christians are not into Carnival at all, so I want to put that caveat there. Not a success from a religious.
But I don't put Carnival either.
Understood.
But as a public figure, I have to separate my own religious perspective.
Well, many of us in the religious community do not separate, but that's another discussion. We could have an entire program on that. But I wanted to quickly move over, sir, in terms of the comment you will get from some of the organizers or, some persons who are associated with Carnival. What they will say is that they might have ensured that any event that they were putting on or hosting, that there was proper garbage cleanup, but there might be, can I call it, on a collateral level, you can have solid waste being there where in the wrong places, in areas and on routes that they had no control over. And so the argument is going
that would be a cop-out. If you are putting on a major event like this, right, you can't just say because you're putting it on within, let us say you're putting it on in the National Stadium, that the garbage in the National Stadium is the only one that you would be responsible for. You put on an event, people will park and walk to the event.
people will have to find ways to travel. So you should be looking at this spillover from your event and the cause and effects of those. So it can't be just narrowed down to just within a particular confine when you put on an event that will grab attention from international media all over, people coming from everywhere. It can't be, and that's a cop-out.
Understood. Mr. Brian Chang, is it a cop-out in your view, or is it a valid, in your view, argument? We didn't put on an event on, for example, Mountain View Avenue. We put on an event in the National Stadium complex. If there is spillover garbage or garbage from persons walking home found on Mountain View Avenue, is none of our concern. Any thoughts on that?
With all due respect to Mr. Gordon, it's a cop-out all around. Kind of what is going on, what, 30 years? 40 years? How can we talk about next time they must do better? And it can't be the carnival organizers only. Yes, they're to blame, but also the authorities. We know what's going to happen. We've seen it last year. Remember something about carnival too, some garbage. It's a cop-out all around. 40 years this thing is going on, and you mean the authorities can't put the proper measures in place? Because if the carnival folks don't clean up, they should be fined. As I said, the deposit should be made, and you lose them or something. But the authorities, we all know what carnival is. We all know the routes or certain bands are. They should be responsible for those routes that the bands are going, and the authorities should be following up and cleaning and fining. So I mean, it's a cop-out all around. You can't tell me say this is unfortunate and next time we will do better when it's 40 years we're doing this. And this doesn't make sense to me.
I think Mr. Gordon is trying to respond. Would you like to respond, Mr. Gordon?
Yeah, well, absolutely I have to respond respectfully, Mr. Chang. Mr. O'Brien Chang, sorry. We have a private sector event. This is a private sector event. We, on the side of the authority, give all the suggestions that we can give in terms of advice and guidance. We got commitments that they would put in place measures to do cleanup. Obviously, some measures were put in place, but was woefully inadequate. Do we then use this as an opportunity now to go to levy fine on the private sector people because of a kind of breakdown in what they put in place, or so on and so forth? Or we work together, they will be paying for, because we have already agreed with them that we put in sweepers yesterday all day from before 6 a.m. and the bill will go to them. They have agreed to pay, but I don't know that to go into the private sector to start levying fine if there is an arrangement put in place that broke down. We have to look forward and say, no, next year maybe we should do it a different way. Every time carnival is held, and Mr. Kevin O'Brien Chang is right, every time we have carnival, there are some issues. Some areas are better than some. Obviously, this particular one was, obviously, probably the worst it has been. But I am not going to come on the radio this morning to say I'm going to walk around now to go in. When we had meetings before, commitments were made. You see evidence that the commitments were followed on, but it was insufficient. To use that as an opportunity now to wave the big stick.
Mr. Gordon, when might you be meeting with some of these private sector players? Only because of time. When might you be meeting with some of these private sector players to have this conversation?
So we have already spoken on the phone, and again, we love meetings in Jamaica. But to be frank with you, this don't require any whole heap of meeting. I know the mayor of Kingston having one today at 1 o'clock with the promoters. But what happened? There was simple fix to it, and I think everybody I spoke to already have agreed to the fix.
The simple fix could be a fine, Mr. Gordon?
No, the simple fix is not a fine. The simple fix is that we know going in that we're going to generate huge amount of garbage. Just make the relevant deposit to the relevant people who have the capacity to deal with it, and we will know that at that time an army of sweepers will move behind the event, and before daylight the streets will be clean again.
I have to leave it there, Mr. Gordon. I have to leave it there, Mr. Gordon and Mr. Branch, only because of time, but I do see where it is 7:30. I want to thank
We did it before. Why did we stop?
Gordon for being with us this morning. Mr. Branch, you were making a comment. Why did we stop?
Yeah, if it had done before, why did we stop?
Understood. Have to leave it there this morning.
Again, the private sector decide who they give the business, Mr. Chang, and that's the challenge we have. It's a private sector initiative.
Obviously, we might need more time for this discussion, but we're completely out of time for this segment. I want to thank both of you gentlemen for being with us this morning. Never enough time with the Morning Watch. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Anything possible with a little savings in your hand.
The time by Gen Bank is
7:31.
You know them, the movers, the shakers, the people making a difference, who never shy away from a challenge, who are never afraid to dirty their hands, to jump in and get things done, who are never afraid to fail, to take a risk, to learn. You know them and aspire to be like them. And you can, because there's always room for greatness. Apply today. University of Technology Jamaica, the birthplace of greatness.
all right. We're going to do a roll call.
The Love Jockey is on duty every Saturday inside Youth Connection. Don't miss the hype. Don't miss the tunes. Don't miss the excitement with your boy, DJ Rebirth. Saturdays at 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. on the family station, Love 101. At 3 p.m., your DJ runs the gospel rhythm. Hot, hot. Tune in at 4 p.m. for a time where we share a word to grow your mind. GYM, grow your mind. Jim, get it? Grow your mind. And at 4:30 p.m., we share with you how young people are giving of their time and fulfilling their purpose inside Ministry in Action. We get a taste of poetry and spoken word inside Poetry and Praise. And you get to send us a WhatsApp message and request your favorite gospel song inside Gospel Faves at 5. All this and more every Saturday at 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. with your love jock, your boy, DJ Rebirth. It's all here on the family station. Love 101.
Youth Connection. Shuboti and them figured he provide everything on guide people we chat. Shuboti and them figured him alone make we appear when we did chat. Hey. Shuboti. If you're a farmer or a fisher folk, this one's for you. Sagicor AgriCare Plan. With AgriCare Plan, you can get affordable insurance coverage for you and your family. Life insurance, health insurance, and the critical illness coverage for as little as $675 every 3 months. Visit your nearest RADA or fisheries office or call 876-936-7785 to apply. Farmers and fisher folks, get the insurance coverage your family deserves today with Sagicor AgriCare Plan. Conditions apply.
Keep your career options open for local and overseas job opportunities in the booming hospitality and tourism industry with City and Guilds and ABE endorsed certification at Distinction College. Start online and face-to-face classes very soon in a career of high demand for workers globally and get certified in housekeeping, food preparation, waitering, travel, tourism, and hospitality. Bartending and mixology, customer service, call center, key baking and decorating, airline ticketing. No subjects required, no age limit. Register this week and get an additional course for free. Call Distinction College at 876-356-4167 or 354-8560. Visit us in Kingston, Spanish Town, Ocho Rios online or St. Elizabeth.
Welcome back to Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marsh. Let's take a look now at the various news sources in terms of what are the most recent news or the various news stories we have. For example, in the Gleaner online this morning, this is a very interesting headline. It says, bully for results. Bully for results. Jamaica's new prison boss, I'm so sorry. I want to ensure that I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Brigadier Raj Mason, I hope I pronounced it properly, has declared that he will be a bully for results, while emphasizing that the way to a safe society is ensuring that the persons who pass through these gates do not return. Very interesting headline there, bully for results. And we move over to the Loop Jamaica news. This is very interesting here, and it relates to what we did in the first watch. Carnival garbage simply intolerable. Mayor to meet with organizers. More anon on that. We have in the Daily Observer estimated $5 billion in earnings over Carnival Week. I did make reference to that headline in the first watch while we had that discussion on in terms of ensuring that we dispose of garbage properly, and more of that story at page 2 of the Daily Observer. And we also have a very concerning story on the front page of the Daily Observer: scene of 2023 double murder being used by criminals to stash loot. This story by Casey Williams, Observer staff reporter. Those and many other stories in our various news sources. Coming up next, we'll read some of the feedback from our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp question, which is, what connection do you think there is between natural occurrences such as the eclipse and what the Bible says? If you haven't done so yet, leave your responses on our Facebook or YouTube. Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Pilate's wife, Simon the Cyrenian, the Roman centurion and his fellow soldiers, the owners of the donkey Jesus rode on into Jerusalem, the children and the religious leaders. No doubt you've heard about them, but did their participation in the Easter story impact you? What lessons can we learn from these so-called minor characters in the Easter story? Tuesday, April 9, on The Rock, join guests Pastor Christopher Kennedy and Reverend Christopher Broadberg as they discuss the topic, minor characters in the Easter story. That's The Rock, Tuesday, April 9 at 10 a.m. right here on the family station, Love 101.
Have to be a man, got to be a man.
It is a new month, and on the next episode of the Mailbox, we will focus on the topic Men and Music, Part 1. Music is a way of glorifying and worshiping God, telling His great deeds, offering outlets for both lament and praise, providing unity to God's people. It is a form of communication that expresses thoughts and emotion that words alone cannot. What are some of the elements that make music moral, right, and godly, fit for praise and worship? You are invited to connect with us as we talk with Mr. Maxwell Slowly, Minister of Music and Pastor at Assemblies of the Firstborn Church International, Santa Hill, on Wednesday, April 10 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station, Love 101, the Mailbox, Monday.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at how our Facebook and the WhatsApp friends answer today's question. What connection do you think there is between natural occurrences such as the eclipse and what the Bible says, Jukal?
All right, so we do have some responses here. K. Dean from Christiana in Manchester says, good. Oh, well, this was responding to the first watch. So let me move on to the question. Cherry from Spanish Town says, good morning, everyone. An eclipse is a natural occurrence in nature that happens, and it doesn't mean the coming of Christ. The Bible did not mention eclipse. It said in St. Matthew 24, verse 29 to 30, after the tribulation, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give light, and the stars from heaven and the powers of heaven will be shaken, which is completely different from an eclipse. So yeah, that's our response. So that one comes from Cherry in Spanish Town.
Are we now in the post-tribulation period?
Well, why look so? Boy, did you see it? Did you? Well, not with your naked eye. But
I neither looked nor showed any
interest.
Great interest.
Got you. Same here.
Because I did not want to be told that I should have known better than to look up into the sky.
True.
So
a friend of mine did it, and boy, I praise strength and eyesight.
I waited to see see people send pictures of
Yeah, man, I
them,
got
and
some
that was
pictures.
enough for me.
Definitely. Because I'm not trying to blind.
Well, let's move right into the second watch. The question is, did you see it? It lasted up to 4 minutes, 28 seconds. It is said almost everyone in North America was guaranteed at least a partial eclipse, weather permitting. What did you think about it? There are many predictions and warnings that come with an eclipse, especially an eclipse of the sun. How much can be proven? How much do we need to look out for? Is there any biblical significance to the solar eclipse or any eclipse? We have as our guest today Richard Dennison. He is the founder of the Jamaica Amateur Science Association, and he is a former IT specialist and senior systems analyst. We also have online Minister Keith Spence. He is a commentator on biblical matters. Good morning, Mr. Spence, Minister Spence. Good morning, Mr. Dennison. How are you both?
Morning, Keith. Morning, Stokeley. How are you doing, guys?
Morning. Richard.
Well, first of all, did you both see this? Did you both see yesterday's solar eclipse?
Yes, I did. JASA had set up on the Temple Hall estate, and we had youngsters come and take a view.
Okay. So why didn't you advise me about this, Mr. Dennison? I'm just joking. So, right. So did you have to wear these special glasses and all of this kind of thing?
Yes, very important. Not advisable for anyone to look at the sun, even on a regular day, without wearing protection for the eyes. Because again, the intensity of the light is still there, even though it's an eclipse.
Okay. Why is it that you're not supposed to look directly at the sun? I mean, people say that, but what's the reason, Mr. Dennison?
Yeah, your retina, your eyes are not constructed to, take in the brightness of the sun. That's why you heard of sun blindness for people who are, let's say, hiking in the mountains like Everest. And that's just from the reflection of the sun on the ice back into the eyes. So yes, while it won't blind you if you actually look at the sun, extended viewing of the sun can cause damage to your retina. And if you repeatedly do that, you will impact your eyesight.
Understand. Okay. Minister Keith Spence.
I purposely, can you hear me?
Yes.
Are you hearing me?
No,
I purposely, I purposely did not go out to observe. I just went about my daily activities because I realized there was a big thing happening around this eclipse. And I purposely kept away from staring at it, getting engaged with it, because I have a different perspective as to these eclipses and what they herald based on scripture.
And what is that?
All right, so they're in Genesis chapter 1. Because remember, I'm based on scripture. It says that the Lord
No problem, Minister Spence. This is a religious media station. You're free to be based on scripture. Go right ahead.
Genesis 1:14 says, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, for seasons, and for days. These are three separate Hebrew words that have been placed here. But of course, with the English language, we just see signs, seasons, days, and we get moving right along. But it says here that for signs, H226 in the Hebrew is the oath, right? Which means as an evidence, as a sign, as a token, an ensign, as a mark. That is one. And then it goes on to seasons, H4150. That is the Moedim, the Moed, which is a fixed time, a fixed season, a festival, right? A definite time for congregation. This is how it is interpreted.
Minister Spence, only because we're upon a break, we have to take a break at this time. However, don't lose your train of thought. And if you could drill down specifically into the solar eclipse when we return, listeners, please go absolutely nowhere. We'll be right back at the Morning Watch.
Importers, shipments requiring you to pay customs duties and taxes are cleared on a customs goods declaration known as an IM4 or IMS4. Ask your clearing agent to provide your customs declaration, customs assessment notice, and customs receipt once duties and taxes are paid. Where your clearing agent may not be able to provide the IM4 or IMS4, request your customs goods declaration registration number or C number, which can be used to verify your payments. Importers, request your IM4, IMS4, or C number. It is your right. For details, email the Jamaica Customs Agency at public.relations@jca.gov.jm. Jamaica Customs, keeping our customers in focus.
On the next Campus Connection, we will focus on tertiary recruitment. Information on career planning and access to higher educational pursuits are essential for students. The Ministry of Education and Youth, in collaboration with public higher education institutions, will host a tertiary recruitment drive. Do you know how important it is for students to access tertiary level education? You are invited to join the discussion with Ms. Shika Walsh, Communication and Marketing Manager at the V2BI, Mrs. Renee Brown, the Acting Senior Education Officer at the Ministry of Education and Youth, Mr. Delano Jarrett, Manager of Client Relations and Marketing at the Council of Community Colleges of Jamaica, and our honorary guest, Ms. Nicole Ann Harvey of the UWI Mona. This all happens on Tuesday, April 9 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station, Love 101.
Mama work hard, for real. She do the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled 2 dreams with 1 Jane Bank savings plan, you know. I further my education and I make mama proud.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
Everyone has a big to-do list nowadays. With this busy schedule, it's easy to forget about yourself. Don't neglect your blood work. Just go for a quick and easy testing with Aculab Diagnostics Limited. Swift, simple testing, tailored to your timetable. They're open every day, including Sundays, keeping pace with your calendar. Dial 613-2714 for more details. That's 613-2714. Quick results, late hours. Because you matter.
Juicy and a real party bro. Everybody run. Get the door, burn up your mouth. Juicy have the best patties. One bag of flavor, them fling panny. Love it, freshly baked, the flaky crust. Baby, full me cut, the gas a bus. Shrimp or veggie patty. Whoa, juicy, have the flavor you love. Chicken or crab in this patty. Whoa, juicy and a real party bro.
Juicy have the party, them Jamaica love. Get it today, island-wide.
Do you operate a business in the manufacturing or agro-processing industry? Sagicor Bank has a loan just for you. Sagicor Bank Manufacturing and Agro-Processing Loan. Borrow up to $50 million with up to 12 years to repay. Financing you can use to retool, expand, improve efficiencies, or gear up for export. Speak with a business banker today. Sagicor Bank Manufacturing and Agro-Processing Loan. Just another way Sagicor Bank is taking care of business. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch. The topic is analyzing the 2024 eclipse of the sun. Our guests are Richard Dennison and Minister Keith Spence. Minister Spence, just before the break, you were outlining to us the biblical perspective that you have on the matter. If you could also drill down in terms of the relevance of the solar eclipse. Well, it occurred yesterday, and we have had other solar eclipses. Are they relevant in terms of biblical prophecy?
Very relevant. I'm not a prophet, but I believe in prophecy. So I was just summarizing what God said when He created the sun and the moon, and that there would be for signs and seasons. Now, scientifically, NASA has indicated that over the past 500 years, there have been virtually 12,000 total eclipses. So these things, I only have historical data to go with, right? In 2014, 2015, that 1.5 years, right? There were actually, instead of one every 1.5, we're getting 4 in the 1.5 years. This is like a tetra. This is super. This is something out of the norm, out of the sequential order.
Are you
And the
saying
word
that we're getting more eclipses of the sun these days than in past time?
in the last 7 years, which is
What does that mean?
Well,
in terms of biblical, well, we're going to come to you shortly, Mr. Dennison, but if I could complete it, Mr. Minister Spence, what does that say to you from a biblical perspective?
the word of God also said, before that dreadful day of the Lord, the moon shall be turned to blood. So a lot of these analogies and metaphors, the only thing that can describe, because we have to look at it from the Hebrew culture. They are the ones that gave us the scriptures, right? What physical event would produce a blood red moon and the sun being darkened, if not for a total eclipse? So we're analyzing what is going on. We have the historical data, and I'm submitting based on the word of God, because he says that creation, the heavens, not the earth or anything else or the sea.
What are you submitting? What are you submitting?
The heavens declare, they send us a message. God and his creation. And in Romans chapter 1, verse 20, it also says that the creation of this world, his invisible nature attributes, meaning his eternal divinity and power, was revealed to us. Is being revealed to us by the signs.
And what is the message?
So the message is that there is a season. Genesis 1 tells us that it is a season. We just came out of a Shemitah year and another Shemitah, which is a period of 7 years. And there's a big 7 years coming, I'm saying to myself, this could very well be that changeover. We see the scientific world cranking up the CERN, Hadron Collider, all of these big messages being aligned to this one little eclipse. I remember a statement being said over the last pandemic that we have an opportunity. There is an opportunity. There's an opportunity for deception and there's an opportunity for truth. I want to rely on what the word of God declares.
Was the April 8th eclipse of the sun in any way connected with the Hebrew calendar?
Listen to me. Once you put these events on the Hebrew calendar, you see a whole lot of other things popping up from a historical data. 1967, the Jerusalem War. 1948, Jerusalem becoming a nation. And it goes on. And there are many others that once you put it on the calendar, the Jewish calendar, not the Gregorian, we see a whole lot of things popping out. April 8th is Abib first, the first of Abib. And what comes on this month? Feast of Passover. The last four events of the eclipses in between 2014 and 2015. One came on Passover and the other one on Sukkot, Feast of Tabernacle. And then it happened again. That's a clear message.
Is it a sign that the coming of the Lord is even nearer than we think?
What would I say? That is my feeling. And we are into a season now where we are seeing each dispensation normally overlaps. And we're seeing just about every single prophetic word written being fulfilled already. Earthquakes, wars, rumors of wars, famine, pestilence, disease, diverse. All of these things are already on the table.
I'm only going to ask the pause because I want to bring Mr. Dennison back into the discussion. Richard Dennison, I'm not asking you to comment in any way, shape, or form on what Minister Spence said. You may, or as well as you may not, if you wish to. But any views that you have, sir, in relation to the relevance of the solar eclipse, perhaps from a scientific perspective, because as Minister Spence indicated, this is not the first eclipse, and it probably won't be the last. And there have been many previous eclipses. Do you, for example, agree that we have been having more solar eclipses in recent history than in times past? I don't know if you have any comments on that.
Sure. Well, let me just first explain what a solar eclipse is in some small detail. The moon orbits the Earth at a regular interval, right?
Yes.
But its orbit is at an angular plane. Think of it like a sombrero tipped on its side. So when the moon goes around the Earth and the Earth around the sun and Earth and moon around the sun, there are moments in which the sun, the moon, and the Earth are in alignment. Yeah. And a shadow, obviously, anything in front of the sun will cast a shadow. So eclipse is basically the shadow of the moon on the Earth. you know, in simple terms.
So
Now,
the moon is between the earth and the sun, and that blockage creates that what we call this eclipse.
Yes. Now, there's an interesting factoid is that the distance of the earth and the moon to the sun is about 400 times the diameter of the moon, and about 400 times the distance from the earth, that, you know, that the earth is to the moon. So you have an interesting alignment that the moon is just the right size in the sky, that it appears as the same size as the sun based on these distances, which is unusual. And that means that when the moon passes in front of the sun, it just perfectly occludes the light from the sun, leaving only the photosphere around the sun to shine through. So you do get a little bit of light. So that just is what it is. Now, we will see it or not see it depending on where that shadow falls on the earth. So in years where it may appear that we're having more eclipses, it's that they're not necessarily more, it's just more people able to see it, because the shadow, instead of passing over the ocean, passes over the land, where humans are able to see it and record it. Now, I'll tell you, Jamaica has an interesting history in this, in that Columbus, on his last voyage, ended up stranded in Jamaica, right? He had beached his last 2 caravels. And the indigenous people of the island, they welcomed Columbus and his crew, fed them, but after 6 months had halted the food supply because they were dissatisfied with what the Spaniards were providing in trade. Columbus happened to have on board an almanac, and because he consulted the almanac and recognized, you know, and they, you know, by that time mankind had recognized this regular pattern of the moon, you know, casting its shadow on the earth, which we call an eclipse. He knew that an eclipse was coming up shortly, and what he did was he used that information to his advantage. He requested a meeting with the cacique, you know, which is the indigenous leader, and told him that God was angry with the local people for their treatment of Columbus and his men, and that God would provide a clear sign of his displeasure by making the rising full moon appear inflamed with wrath. Of course, at clockwork, the moon, the eclipse occurred, and the indigenous people, the Arawaks, came with great howling and lamentation, running from every direction to the ships, praying for the admiral to intercede by all means with God on their behalf, that he might not visit his wrath upon them. Columbus went into his cabin ostensibly to pray and timed the eclipse with his hourglass. Then he popped out a bit after the totality had passed and told the indigenous people that they were going to be forgiven, and of course got what he wanted out of them. Interesting that Jamaica, again, has that role, with eclipses, and Columbus taking advantage of his knowledge of the regularity of it. So I just say that to say that, there are those who say, well, indeed, you can ascribe earthly events to the appearance of eclipses in the sky, but it is so regular that even Columbus himself was able to use it, with the indigenous people of Jamaica at the time.
And I think, of course, they are now called Tainos. I think you made reference to the Arawaks.
Oh, yes, sorry, correction, Tainos. Yes, you're right.
Minister Spence, I'm sure you'd like to respond, and then we wrap, because I think we're completely out of time almost.
Definitely. Here's one thing we need to put into that frame. Columbus. Who was Columbus? What was his nationality? Columbus was a Jew, and so were the people on board with him. He knew what these things were all about. It's in his DNA. It's a part of who he is. And so was the people of Egypt. Everybody that came off of the ark. Egypt had this thing packed down to a T. And also the sons of Japheth. So Ham, Shem, and Japheth have it all locked. Those Japhethites that came from the east on the birth of Messiah, when Yeshua was in the house, not even in the manger, in his house, there was this star shooting down, and that's what they followed. How we have been so trained otherwise to forget, but there are other persons who know. NASA, the computer has it, Israel has it, those in the east has it, Egypt has it, but we just lose track. Columbus was a Jew, and I said to myself when I saw this, I said, wow, Jamaica, had it not been for Columbus and God's sign in the sky, which he knew would come on this day. As a Jew, I don't know where I would be today. So even this eclipse, even eclipses, speaks to Jamaica's destiny and future. Let's be prepared for the future.
Only because of time, we are completely out of time, and we have to wrap up this time. I want to thank both of you for your time and for your thoughts. I think we need more time for this segment because I don't think there's enough time to discuss all of this in a couple of minutes. Thank you, Minister Spence and Minister Spence and Mr. Dennison. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we discuss all topical and controversial issues. Visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. Listen to the Morning Watch on our Love 101 app and download it today and stay connected to the family station, the #1 gospel station in Jamaica, Love 101 FM. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gill, and to our guests. I am Stokeley Marsh and hand it back to Love in the Morning with Chicago.
Thank you so much for listening to the Morning Watch. The time is